So, welcome back to Phantom Media Question Time. We're now here with our candidates for Vice President Welfare, Ashley Harker and Emily Lane. And we also have our current VP Welfare, Samira, joining us today. So let's jump straight into it. Ash, we'll start with you. And I want to talk about your first manifesto point, which is all about inclusivity. You want to make the university more responsive to the student voice. How do you intend to do this?
Well, firstly, my big concern with the university is that it doesn't reach many students, and that, for example, I've attended several scrutiny panels, and one of the issues that have cropped up is that even the PTOs, the people who are meant to know what the full-time officers are doing, are not made aware of what it is that they're doing across the university. But also, the union creates a lot of events, but a very common thing that is brought up is that students just simply do not know what is happening. So, for example, we've done society events and we promote them constantly, and people say we couldn't go, but at least we knew about it. The same cannot be said for many union events. Also, for example, the union tries to do the Students' Summit. 2 weeks ago, we had to bring in students to actually be able to do the summit because not enough students were even aware that it was happening, and so there needs to be a more concentrated effort on making sure that students are engaged throughout the university. And also currently, at the moment, I'm doing petitions. There is no in-place system for the union to accept petitions, so even though I'm putting these forward, there is no process for me to submit them within the university itself at all. And so there needs to be a place for these sort of channels to be created.
Absolutely. And moving on to Emily. Your first manifesto point is all about tackling loneliness at university. This is something that's cropped up quite a lot in quite a few manifestos. You say that you want to introduce safe spaces to de-stress. Could you expand on what these are and where they would be located and how you would fund them?
Yeah, sure. So I'm in the Smarty Slate, so I work very closely with Alex Barker-Moore, who's running for president, and he and I both want to implement a living room kind of that books on campus have a living room for students to go to, and we want to try and implement that into all the campuses if possible. One thing that I was that I wanted to sort of look at as well would be maybe a buddy system. Where some students volunteer a little bit like RAs, but are more sort of like personalised to students, if that makes sense. So like maybe somebody on your course or somebody already in halls, and just so that if somebody is struggling to socialise or is struggling to like freshers, for example, can be quite a scary time of year for some students. Giving them information about freshers and giving them information about societies, and just creating spaces for students to go to meet other people, to just not something that's a little bit relaxed, so they don't have to worry about work there. They can just go and just meet people, and not have to worry about big large crowds of people, and just somewhere for people to go, really.
Yeah. And Ash, back to you. You, in your manifesto, you also want to ensure that the university takes steps towards becoming more environmentally and ethically conscious, which is something that's really sort of blown up in the past couple of years. Could you please expand on this a little bit?
Yes, so at the moment, it was one of the questions you asked the presidents about the use of freebies given out. It was also an item discussed at the last Students' Summit, where the current PTO for Ethics and Environment put forward that the university produces a lot of materials that don't particularly are used very well, and so more needs to be done to make sure that materials that are given out by the university and by the union need to be used more than once, and that they also need to come from a more ethically based background, which is also what another one of the candidates for ethics and environmental, their policy is about.
Yeah. And Samira has some questions for you guys as well.
Yeah, so my first question will be for Ash. So basically just building on how the union keep other students informed already, so what would be some non-conventional ways that you would like to keep students involved in, like what's going on other than maybe socials and stuff?
So one of the ways, for example, we run societies, so we are encouraged to post in the freshers pages. The union itself doesn't post within these pages, and that's perhaps the largest area in which we get involvement. Also, there has been a lot of talk about spam emails from the university, but in terms of being able to have an opportunity to find out what the full-time officers do and what is happening across the university, perhaps a bi-weekly or at least a monthly email to say what has happened within the university, what's been implemented and what's upcoming would be a useful measure to not only tell students but also the PTOs for societies.
Thank you. So my next question for you, Emily. In your manifesto, I noticed you said a bit about training. So I just wanted to know how will your training be different than what the union already offers to the community members?
Sure. So some of the training that's in place is very optional, and so for like inclusivity training, committee members, it's an optional thing for them to go to, and it's scattered throughout the year. But often, due to other time commitments, such as lectures and things like that, they can't come. So maybe in Josh's manifesto, who's also in the Smarty Slate, making it core training, especially mental health training, making it a core part of committee training, not necessarily be the person to diagnose or anything like that, but to know where to get the help from, know where to tell people to get the help from, because I feel that sometimes committee members, they'll have a member come to them, but they don't necessarily know what to do. So having some of the training, not necessarily all of it, but having definitely the mental health and some of the inclusivity, having it be part of that week where it's core for them to go to, that it's mandatory for them to have at least one of the members to be mental health trained, because you have to have at least one who's first aid trained but not mental health trained, so I think that that's quite important.
Great, thank you.
And alongside that training, you said you want it offered to sports committees and PTOs. Would it be offered to other clubs, societies and SLS committees as well?
Yeah, I think it should be, in fact, maybe even lecturers included in that group as well. Not necessarily every single lecturer on every course, but have some lecturers, some core collective of lecturers who are aware of what to do if a student comes to them with that issue, because not every student will go straight to wellbeing. They might go to their personal tutor, or they might go to their rep, their program rep. So just having that training for a few people, so that the program reps can go to those lecturers or can go to somebody, rather than just wellbeing, because a lot of students can be scared to go to wellbeing, or they don't feel the need to go to wellbeing because they don't think that their issue is, they don't feel that their issue is big enough, which is ridiculous, because every issue should be seen to if possible. So having a core set of committee members, lecturers, PTOs, reps, SLS committee, trained in that area, so to help students who need it.
Yep. And coming back to you, Ash, your second point in your manifesto is all about accessibility. How do you intend to make all University of Derby students feel that they are welcome and equipped with the necessary support?
I've got several points in this category. The first one is also in Emily's manifesto, which is training. Currently, me and Neil, the person candidate for part-time officer for LGBT, we've also got a petition at the moment for making university training more mandatory and more thorough. So at the moment, RAs only have to RAs have come to me and said that they do not feel adequately trained to provide training, and that they want to have more in-depth training so that they're able to support students within halls. The other is that, as Emily noted, we go to several training sessions a year. However, the lecturers do not have to attend such training. They're only required to attend one session a year. And so we think that there should be lecturers and members of staff and people who are meant to look after students should have a greater responsibility than the societies who are volunteering to do this. Another thing that I've also got in is updating the uni's trans policy. It's been something I've been putting forward for the last 2 years. Currently, the LGBT Society and myself do not think that it is adequate to provide for students at the moment, and also to make sure that the university can provide facilities that are accessible for all. So for example, this year I've campaigned for sanitary bins in all university toilets, and also to have more accessible, such as gender neutral toilets across all campuses and equal to gendered toilets.
And you also state that you want to ensure all staff have a good awareness of the issues that students face, and also to ensure that all students feel safe. How are you intending to achieve this?
Again, through training. So for example, last year I went to the wellbeing team and they did not actually know how they could help me, because they did not have the awareness necessary to deal with, for example, LGBT issues. And also at the moment, so students, a high level of comments are being made against students from Asia at the moment due to recent events, and so bullying across the university can't be tolerated, whether you are a person of colour or whether you have a disability or whether you are within the LGBTQ+ community at all.
And Emily, your final point is to work with various student bodies to uncover issues and solve them. Can you give an example of what one of these issues might look like and how you would tackle it, or alternatively an example in which you've done this in the past?
Yeah, so actually through campaigning and about
yeah, it's fine, just keep going.
I've also been told about something that Ellie, the Smarty candidate running for VP Education, some lecturers aren't following support plans effectively enough, so things like that. And ultimately with that point I want to create a dialogue where I hear about students' issues and I can work with them to come up with a solution, like the dyslexia point and the font, which is what I was informed about. So just creating that sense of talk to us, we want to help.
Yeah. And Samira, do you have a couple more questions?
Yeah, so again, I'll start with you first, Ash. So in your manifesto, you talk a bit about accessibility. So if elected into this role, you will sit on a group called DAWN, which is Disability Access Wellbeing Network. So just with that being said, what are some kind of issues that you'd probably like to bring to the table to discuss at staff level around accessibility with disabled students?
For example, for one that I've raised with you is that there aren't many accessible toilets around Ked Road. So I said that there's only one in the library, and yet students are not encouraged, but they have to spend a large amount of time within the library researching, and also within the university towers. There are usually only one accessible toilet in the entire tower. So there needs to be more accessibility in the towers. Sammy Hilton this year brought up how that the accessible lifts aren't even accessible for her, and she's the PTO for disabilities. Yeah.
Thank you. And then moving on to you, Emily. Just going off one of the last questions that was raised as well. You mentioned that you wanted to work with various student bodies. So if elected into the role, you will sit on a group called CPCS, so Collaborative Partnerships. So they basically coordinate the different things with our collaborative partners, so Derby University in different countries, or apprenticeship students and things like that. So those are some other various student bodies that you'd have to understand the issues of.
Yeah.
So how would you go about contacting, communicating and building a rapport with those students that are far from home?
So I would look at what online resources there are to, I assume they'd have some online contacts for them, and just do some research into how I am able, like what things there are available to contact them. If there's anything within the university, if there's any person, if there's a person who's a point of call, a specific contact for them, and getting any details I can from there. And then to understanding their issues, it would again be a communication thing of just making sure that I'm in regular contact with them, maybe delegate a specific day a month or week or however regularly, to contact them and just check up on how they're doing and what kind of issues they need addressing, and just make sure that there is a level of communication, that it is a regular communication as well, and not put to the back seat, it's something that's constant. I'm constantly being aware of, constantly making sure that they are being contacted, they are being updated on anything that I'm working on for them, just making sure that I can contact them as regularly as possible.
Thank you. And finally, starting with Ash, could you please tell us why you believe people should vote for you and where they can find out more about your campaigns?
I think people should vote for me because I've got 2 years' experience working within the union. I believe that that people should vote for me because I am committed and will strive towards creating a better environment for for students at the university. And you can read my manifesto and see my campaign materials on Facebook and Instagram at Ashley for VP Welfare. And you can follow the website to www.derbyunion.co.uk/elections.
So I've been involved in the union for 3 years, committee for 3, in Societies Council for 2. I'm on the primary ed course, so student wellbeing and safety is a constant issue for me, and a constant thing that I'm striving to address and I'm always thinking about, regardless of whether they're primary age children or students who are at university. You can find all of my manifesto points and other materials on Facebook and Instagram at Emily for VP Welfare, and you can find my manifesto also at derbyunion.co.uk/elections.
Okay, great. Thank you both for joining us, and thank you Samira as well. Voting closes midday this Friday, so good luck with the rest of your campaign.
Thank you.